Right. Hey, everybody. Happy Thursday and welcome to Glad You Asked.
Hey, hey.
Yeah, so excited about seeing you all. I feel like, have I missed a few? I feel like I've missed a few Glad You Asked. I think I have missed a couple or something around in there, but I've missed this. I've missed you all, and it's good to be back. We got some topics, and I actually have a video for you all today. We're going to watch a video on Realtor.com's market predictions for 2022. So, what happened was they came out with their market predictions for this year at the end of last year in December. But guess what? Monday, they had to redo them because things are a changing. So
Yeah.
they had to go back and regroup, and Realtor.com has put out a video about what their market predictions are. And so I believe that I will get started with that. And if you looked in your text, that announcement that you all received, we're going to be talking about cash buyers and proof of funds. Do you all verify those proof of funds? And even if you ask for a prequal, do you verify those? We're going to talk about that. And of course, June 30th is coming quickly. And we know what we got to do before then. Renew, renew, renew. So that with a couple of just announcements, I guess I'll call them a little later, just a few things that I found out that I think is interesting as it relates to real estate. So I'll talk about those. But let's get started with market predictions. What is Realtor.com saying? So give me a second. I'm going to share my screen and let's look at this Q&A from Realtor.com. All right, just a second here. Can you all see my screen with the Realtor.com logo there? All right, very good. Make sure you all can hear this. All right.
Hi, I'm Claire Trapasso. I'm the news editor of Realtor.com, and I'm here with Danielle Hale, our chief economist, to talk about our mid-year housing forecast. So tell me, why did we decide to issue a mid-year forecast? Why are we revising the current forecast?
Well, that's a great question because we don't do this every year. We decided to revise our housing forecast because the housing landscape is very different than we projected back in December. And when the market undergoes such a big shift, we want to make sure we're giving people the best information about what's going on in the housing market, hence the updated forecast. There are a couple key things. One, inflation is a lot worse than we expected and worse than most economists expected. That has prompted the Fed to increase its short-term rates, and that has had an effect on mortgage rates. We expected mortgage rates to be 3.5, 3.6% or so by the end of 2022. They're already up over 5%. It's a really big landscape shift for anyone buying a home with a mortgage. Higher mortgage rates raise costs for buyers. So, and they're coupled right now with higher home prices. The combination of higher home prices and higher mortgage rates mean costs are up about 50% compared to a year ago. And so buyers are having to really navigate those higher costs by getting creative or in some cases pausing their searches.
Wow. Does that mean that prices could potentially go down?
So our projection is that prices are going to go up. And in fact, our price forecast for 2022 is higher than we originally projected. And that's because high prices have had a lot of sticking power. The beginning of the year, prices have risen much faster than we originally expected, as potential shoppers worried about higher costs on the horizon tried to get in and act quickly. That created a lot of demand in the very early part of the year. The big picture trend is that we expect home price growth to slow. That hasn't changed from the original forecast. We do still expect home price growth to slow. It's just slowing at a slower pace than we originally expected. So for the year, we expect home prices to be up a little over 6%.
What about home sales? If prices are going up this much, could sales slow?
We do expect home sales to slow, and that's another big pivot between our original forecast and this updated version. We had expected sales to grow about 6.6%. We now expect them to fall about 6.7%. Now, to put that into context, home sales were so fantastic in 2021 that even if we see the 6.7% decline, home sales in 2022 will be the second best year in the last 15 years, second only to last year's home sales figures.
Are there any bright spots for home buyers right now?
The biggest bright spot for home shoppers is that we expect to see more homes available for sale. We originally forecast essentially flat, a very small uptick in inventory, but we're now expecting 15% growth in the number of homes available for sale on the market.
Does this mean that the bidding wars and the crazy offers over asking will start to die down?
It's still a seller's market, and especially in some of the hottest markets, buyers may still encounter bidding wars and multiple offers, including offers over asking price. But we do expect those really competitive conditions to slow down, especially as you get into markets that typically have more calm real estate environments that don't get overheated and really competitive. I think for both buyers and sellers in the market today, staying informed is the best thing that they can do. They can get the data and insights that we're sharing today at realtor.com/research and realtor.com/news.
All right. Okay, so realtor.com said one thing at the end of 21, and now they've had to come back and readjust what they originally put out. Let's talk about it. Have you all, yes, I can, Katie. I will put it in the chat. I will put the link in the chat. Have you all had, so they're talking on a national scale across the nation. Let's talk about it locally. What have you all seen since the interest rates have gone up several times this year? And what are you all seeing? You know, they at the end of last year, they were expecting a 6.6% growth. Now they're saying a 6.7% decline. What are you all seeing locally? And what are we doing? Are we ready for the shift? I was actually trying to find a Gary Keller video. Oh, I couldn't find one in time, but I'm gonna get it. Maybe that's the next one. But what are you all seeing? Let's talk about it.
I've seen some price drops that properties that have been on the market 9 or 10 days with price drops.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're, oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I think we're seeing more price drops. Like I had a listing appointment yesterday afternoon. And so one of the things I wanted to take with them or with me to them was changes like that we're seeing from this increase in interest rates. And, you know, before you would see price drops at like 5,000, 10,000, and all of the ones that I've seen in my area were like large numbers. I mean, like 25, 50. And so that's telling me that us as agents are either not doing our job, you know, properly, or the seller is just really wanting to truly test the market.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Katie. So not a $5,000 or $10,000. We're talking 20, 25. Okay. All right. I see Sarah said in the chat, let me just open my chat here so I can see it well. Very significantly by area. Absolutely. And I think, okay. And price point. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So we're seeing price drops at less than 2 weeks on the market. That's so not what we saw 7 years ago. We didn't see price drops at all because they didn't stay on the market long enough to drop the pricing. Okay, so price drops, significant price drops at that. All right, what else? Especially as I know all of you list. So what's your conversation? And thank you, Katie, for sharing a little bit about that going to your clients yesterday. What are you saying to your sellers now that you see this shift happening?
I think it's really important to let them know that, last summer, we were having homes on the market a day, 2 days. I know for me, I had one that just closed, actually 6 houses down in the exact same neighborhood last summer. And we had 9 offers in 1 day last summer. But on this one that we just closed this week on, we had only 3 offers, and it was over the stretch of 4 days. And so I think it's important that we set the standard up front that, we possibly will still have multiple offers, but things are staying on the market longer. And I think, like for Randolph County, our average days on market now is 5 days versus, again, last summer it was 2 days. So, I mean, I think it's just extremely important that we set that standard up front, that because sellers are reaching out to us as agents because they want, or they're being told that the market is hot, they can get the most amount of money. So they already have kind of an expectation that in this market, even just since January, is not really realistic at this point.
Right, right. I like that. Thank you for adding that. And I see, Judy, you came off mute. What do you have to add?
So I find myself using a script that I hadn't used in a very long time about how do you know when it's time to reduce? And I have it printed out all on one page that I just put in front of sellers. It says, if you go 14 days without a showing or 10 showings without an offer, your price is too high. And, we haven't talked like that in a long time. So preparing them that, we think this is about the right price, but if we're off, we're going to know it, and we need to make that adjustment quickly.
I like that. So Judy has a script that she uses, and I like that. And she puts it right in front of them. So being realistic from the very beginning, realistic conversations. I like that. And I see Sarah in the chat says more intensity in list price discussion. Yes. And pointing to the data for backup. Absolutely. Using facts of the data to back up what you're saying. I had to clean up some of my objection handling. I like it. Have to go back into script practice, right? Similar to what Judy was saying. I like that. And you know what I'm hearing? These are still really good numbers, right? Having 3 offers in 4 days is still fantastic. I mean, that's fantastic. I remember when I started in real estate several years ago, houses could sit on the market for months, 6 months, 2 months. And that was the norm, that was expected. But today, imagine if it went from hours on market to months on market like that. Okay, we would have to put sellers in straitjackets, and we really would become counselors and therapists if that was the case. So I like this. So strategies are dusting off your objection handlers, dusting off the scripts, going in there with Judy's tool, where she's saying, okay, if it's been on the market this long, then we're going to reduce by this amount. Having that up front. I also hear you say, going in there with the data. Okay, last summer, it was this many days on market average. Now we're looking at this many days. So going in there, level setting, educating. And that's the thing. That's why it's so important that we as agents do our homework, do our research, and come in there with hard facts and proof and reality with these sellers. I see Tiffany and I see Judy.
Yeah. So, okay. I was just going to say, good discussion on seller side. What are you guys telling your buyers? Ooh. I want to know how are you preparing buyers for what's happening too? Mm-hmm. But before we jump into that, Judy, what was your question?
No, it wasn't a question. I was just
Oh,
going to say, now more than ever, you got to keep in touch with your sellers because they worry now if their home hasn't sold in 5 days, like what's wrong. So I have one of those, and I'm just having to keep them calm and say, listen, where you are, it's just doesn't bring as many buyers as if you're in the middle of town, and it can take a little longer. So don't panic. I'm watching the showings closely, and of course you're going to know if you got offers. So let's sit tight for another week, and and then we'll talk at the end of next week and see where we're at then. What they hate the most is if you don't call them.
yeah.
And then it makes it really hard when you have to call them to say, hey, it's time to reduce. So if you call them when you're just chatting and informing them, they'll be in a better mood when you have to call them, if you have to call them with, less than exciting news.
That's right. That's right. Judy, you said a mouthful. Stay in contact with your seller. So important. Even if it's just to say no change, or in a couple of days, or very soon we may have to do this. But that is so important. Communication, and that goes with anything. Communication is key. That way they know you are watching the market, you're watching their property, you're studying all of that. So I absolutely love it. So thank you all for adding that and that discussion around it. So Tiffany did bring up a good question, and they spoke to that in the video. All right, she talked about sellers. Then she says, okay, what are the buyers experiencing in this changing market with these interest rates that didn't just inch and creep up? I mean, they changed. So yeah, they jumped. So what's going on with the buyers? Any experience with buyers in this market? There you go. Okay, Sarah, that is it. We can almost drop a text mic right now. If I could find one, I would put it in the chat. Stay in touch with the lender. Why, Sarah? Why should we as agents and buyers stay in touch with their lender? Because why?
Well, just to make sure the buyer has the most up-to-date information and is prepared to move forward.
That's it. Can they go as soon as they get that pre-qual letter? And here's the thing, they better go, because they could have received that pre-qual or pre-approval a week ago when the interest rate was 4.5, and today it's 5%. So that pre-qual could definitely be a changing, because that could change how much they can afford. Yes. Thank you, Sarah. That's it right there. Stay in touch with that lender. So, and what are your buyers saying? Have you had any buyers that just said, I'm done? You know what? Forget this. I can't do this anymore. I'm tired. I'm weary. I've put in 15 offers and didn't get any of them. I'm done. I'll call you all 2 years from now. Will they be able to afford 2 years from now is the question, because we don't know. So what are you guys seeing with your buyers?
We have had buyers who have gotten burned out and just said, I'm just going to hold off buying. And what can you say? They've made offers, nothing's happened. They know that it hasn't really, up until now, hasn't really gotten a whole lot better. Yeah. And even now, maybe it's a little better, but it's not a whole lot better for buyers. Right. So, we have to just gracefully say, I understand.
Exactly. You're right, Judy. What can you really say? Because you're doing, as buyer's agents, you're doing everything you can do. And if they have limited funds, their pre-qual or buying power is only what it is. What can you do? I see you came off mute, Katie. What do you have to add?
It's not, I guess it's not really anything that we can actually do in the moment because you can't make people have money. But I think that's where us as agents, have to come out of the real estate side and dig more into that compassion and caring, and that we really are in this for a reason to help them find, the perfect property or what is, fit for them and their family. And just tell them that, this time may not be your time, but I'm going to be here to love on you and help you answer any questions that you may have, along the way. And we'll stay in touch because you don't know what's going to happen between now and, 2 years from now. They might have somebody else that, gets into real estate and wants to do a better job at staying in touch with them. Right. So, you really just have to put, I guess, in my opinion, and I'm speaking to myself, too, because I've had some that have decided to quit. And it's just really important that we just continue to love on them because it's hard. It's so defeating to feel like you're approved. That's so exciting, but then you can't afford nothing in this market. And that is so disheartening.
It is. It is. And you made a good point, especially when they have limited resources. They only have $10,000, but there's someone who's bidding and or making offers with 20,000 up front. And if 10,000 is all they have, they can't afford to put all of it in due diligence. They got to pay for inspections and all of these things. And yeah, it really is tough out there for buyers. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Judy. Tiffany, did you have something to add?
Yeah. So I was just going to say, I recommend really treating the buyers and the sellers the same. Just like you're educating the sellers on what to expect and what's coming as the market is shifting, doing the exact same thing with their buyers, educating them, letting them know, okay, the interest rates are going up rapidly, but the prices we're anticipating are going to continue to rise as well. And so, helping them by having as much data as possible to put together a plan. Okay, if we're going to stop or take a break, let's make it temporary because you don't want these prices to continue to rise with the interest rates. And so sitting together, putting a game plan together, it's okay to let people take a break and have a rest. We do anticipate that there won't be as much competition. And so it might be a little bit less stressful for that buyer, but the interest rates are not going to go down, and we don't anticipate house prices will anytime soon. So being realistic, making sure that your buyers are as educated as sellers are on what's happening in this market right now, and putting plans around that for how to move forward and still get them in a house. So, not giving up, but it's okay to slow your pace and re-strategize and put together a plan for how to come back at this market.
Mm-hmm. And staying in touch. Very good, Tiffany. Thank you for those suggestions. And staying in touch even during the breaks. Yeah. So they may not be actively making offers and actively searching, but staying in contact. And maybe that will give rise to another strategy on the list side. Okay, that price point of your buyer. So maybe you start farming or golden lettering properties that will fit the buyer, and maybe you can come together and make a marriage between a listing and a buyer. So there may be some opportunities for that as well. If you can't find something listed for your buyer, maybe there's something that's not listed for a buyer that you can certainly see what's out there. Very good discussion. Very good discussion. Because it's, I hear agents passing by the halls and coming to the office all the time. And here's the famous line, it's crazy out there. It's crazy out there. And that's what everybody's saying. And you're right. And we're experiencing this shift that Gary Keller has been talking about probably over the last year or so. And I think it came a little sooner than we anticipated. Especially based on what Realtor.com is saying. Well, good discussion. Any last comments on market predictions and what to do, how to make it through it? Okay, well, let's move on to the next thing, and that's cash buyers and proof of funds. Cash buyers and proof of funds. And I also will kind of add in there, what about agents who have luxury type properties and they're asking for pre-approval or pre-qualification letters prior to showing? Okay. All right. So cash buyers, you have a listing, you get that cash buyer, or your buyer agent with the buyer who's paying cash, and you have that proof of funds. But really, this question is for listing agents. Do you verify when you get these proof of funds? If you get a pre-qual, do you verify? Or are we just so excited when we get that offer as listing agents? Hey, okay, great. It's state employees. You know, we're excited. State employees, they close the majority of the time. Hardly ever do they not close. They're predictable. I don't have to check. What do you all do with these proof of funds for cash buyers and verifying these pre-quals? Anybody?
So I'll say what I do. When it's a pre-approval, I do call the lender, and I know that they're not allowed to tell me a whole lot, but I think it's important for the seller to know that I called the lender. And and sometimes they have things to say. Like I had one, he said, I've been doing this for 20 years and done tremendous volume of business. And I would say that these buyers are in the top 5 strength-wise of any buyers I've ever pre-approved. They're good as gold, or they're good as they get, and I say, that's all I want to hear. And then I can repeat that back to the seller, and it gives them that reassurance, and it shows that I took the time to do that step.
Exactly. And that's a little over and beyond, Judy. That I like that over and beyond step that you do. Going in there, verifying, contacting that lender, and then reporting it back to the seller. I like that. And that's over and beyond service that the typical general agent out there may not do. So I like that. I like that. Anybody else? What do you do? Do you verify? Do you call, even if it's the cash buyer and they have that proof of funds there, they submitted it? Are you calling for proof of fund to verify that the money is there in the bank? Go ahead, Judy.
Oh, okay.
So I'm interested in what others have to say about this. What I have done with that, I've never thought about calling, if it's a bank statement, calling the bank, and I'm not sure what you'd say. What I do look for, and I have found a couple of times, I want a bank statement that definitely has their full name on it.
Okay.
Because a lot of times they'll print out something that shows the balance but doesn't have their name. Or it might have an account number but not their name. And of course, when I submit it, if it's a buyer, when we submit it, we black out their account number if the account number is on it.
Right.
So we conceal that. But as a listing agent, it means nothing to me if I don't have a name and a balance.
Gotcha. Okay, so Judy is looking for something specific, and it seems like Judy has done this before, so she knows what to look for on these proof of fund letters or these bank statements. Thank you, Judy. I absolutely love it. So she knows what to look for on these statements. Anybody else verify?
Now, I want to recommend, if you don't, that you consider doing it, because you could run into the opposite side. So like Judy, I also verify pre-qual letters and when it comes to statements about cash, and I'll talk about one of each scenario. But to play the devil's advocate, I have had a call to a lender, and the lender was very honest. And the lender was saying, we just barely got this buyer there, and there's no space for any change, So a lender can let you know if they're well qualified, if they're barely qualified. There's some things that they can tell you when you do call to verify, because do you think a seller would want to know if that buyer was barely qualified just as much as they want to know if they were well qualified. And so it really gives an opportunity for a more educated decision on what kind of risk that seller might be taking with that particular buyer. So I do recommend, I think lenders don't mind hearing from agents, and they actually appreciate the agents that will follow up. And I've never had a lender not be helpful or cordial as a listing agent calling to check up or verify their pre-approval letters. So I think lenders appreciate and understand why, and have always been, in my experience, very helpful there. So I do want to recommend that. Not saying that if you get 50 that you call all of them, but if your seller's leaning towards the top 2 or 3, certainly call those, by all means. From a proof of funds standpoint, I agree with Judy. Make sure that there's a name and a number that are sufficient there. But what about if you get a letter where they're saying, they give a name and they say has sufficient funds to cover, the amount indicated in this transaction or something. I've called places that were not lenders. They were like trading houses and things, so you might get something that's not traditional, and you want to make sure that you speak to an actual person who can verify the interest that you have in the person named per the contract, or per the offer rather, and their ability to close by the date that's being offered. So at least something of that nature, depending on the type of proof of funds that you receive. But definitely investigate that, because I found people to be very helpful and very honest about the ability to qualify or to perform the transaction.
Yeah, and thank you, Tiffany. Absolutely, because here's the thing, we're getting, and you all are getting offers from investors and all that good stuff, and they have these non-traditional looking proof of funds. It's not necessarily a bank account with X amount of money in it, but it's from a business group, from some type of not investment, like a Price Waterhouse or a place like that, that's not standard or typical. So yeah, pick up the phone, verify these things before, and you could be saving your seller some headache, and that will help determine what offer they choose and go with. Good point, Tiffany, about well qualified versus the barely qualified. I like that term. They barely got there, and we would want to know that too. A seller would definitely want to know that. So I brought this up because we've had one of our agents had a luxury property, and so they were asking for pre-approval proof of funds prior to showing, because this wasn't expensive. It was a luxury home, and the seller did not want to waste their time with people coming in their home and viewing the home if they could not qualify for it. And come to find out, when someone requested the showing, our agent requested the pre-approval, and they actually sent the pre-approval or proof of funds. I can't remember exactly which one it was. And when the agent picked up the phone to call, they were not given a positive report. They were, we don't know who this is. This person, it is not a member of our bank, don't know who it is. So when that was reported back to the agent comes back again with another letter from another institution, and our agent picks up the phone again and calls and says, yes, they have accounts here. However, we cannot verify at this time that they will be able to do da 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 da. So it was very imperative for this agent to do that, and they did it. And this happened probably about 3-4 times. They kept sending pre-approvals, kept sending letters, and our agent kept verifying and did not get the answer. So needless to say, it became a thing. Their broker in charge reached out to me. This is how I know about it, and said, we can't get a showing approval. And so when I went to see why it wasn't being approved, I looked at the listing. They requested proof of funds. However, the agent did not use verifiable proof of funds in the MLS. So I suggested that they go back and in the MLS and the agent remarks and put in there verifiable proof of funds, because it seems as if this buyer was just making up things just to get into the house. So that was one thing that we learned in this scenario, adding that word verifiable proof of funds or verifiable pre-approval. So that agent never did get into that house for that showing because they could not provide verifiable proof of funds. So do verify. Yes, Judy.
So there's a site called Been Verified. That I have a very high-end listing coming up. I was talking, and I learned about Been Verified from an agent I know from Asheville, who they do a lot of high-end properties, and they shared that with me. And so not only do you ask for the verifiable proof of funds, and I love that, putting that into the agent remarks that way. I think there's a cost. There's, like a free, free trial at Been Verified. And then I think each time you do a lookup, there's a cost. I think it's like $15 or something like that. But, if someone calls me directly and to show my listing and I have to be there for showings, then I don't want to waste my time or the possibility of getting somebody in there who doesn't belong there. I'll pay the $15 each time to check on that person.
I like that. Thank you, Judy, for sharing that. I have made note of that, and I will make that known to agents that have luxury properties specifically, to let them know that they can pay a small fee to verify. I love that. Love that. I love it. Okay, very good. Thank you so much for sharing that. So yeah, definitely verify. Absolutely. Okay, well, great discussion on that. Anyone have any last things to add about cash buyers, proof of funds, or verifiable pre-approvals? All right, very good discussion. Good discussion. Okay, next, renew your license, right? Renew your license before June 30th. Don't wait. And the commission says this. They tell us, do not wait till later that night on June 30th to do it, because so many people may be waiting and the system may crash, go down, what have you. So renew your license. If you are getting paid through a firm, you've set up an entity where you're the broker in charge of your entity for compensation, don't forget to renew that as well. Renew your personal individual license and renew your firm license as well. And you all say to me, Teresa, tell them to renew the firm's license so we're not all in trouble, and I will do it. Matter of fact, we will do that. I said the 15th, we're past the 15th. Today is the 16th. I will let them know. I need your card. We got to go renew our firm. So we all have a home on July 1st. All right, so renew your license.
I got a question.
Yes.
So we also have to do this privilege license, right?
Yes, thank you.
So, and I don't know when the renewal date is on that, but
I think we should be, and my internet, can you all hear me? It's stuck. Can you hear me? Okay, my screen keeps freezing for some reason. Yes, I got a notification, and I'm gonna just walk across my office to see if I can see what the date is on it. Hang on one second.
So, what I was interested
It's
to know.
July renewal for your privilege license.
Thank you, Ethiel. Thank you.
I didn't hear that.
She said July, right?
Did you
Yes.
say July 1st?
Yes.
July 1st. So
There it is.
I didn't, the last year, they never mailed me a copy of it. I mean, is that standard? Not, I'm used to getting a little paper copy that you're supposed to have somewhere in your office. Last year, for whatever reason, I didn't. Is that like becoming, is that normal to not get it?
I'm going to say, I don't recall receiving one either. Especially when I came here, when I first joined here, we paid it, but I never received anything in the mail saying, here is a copy of your privilege license.
They'll fine you too and add interest if you don't send it in. Whether or not you got a paper copy doesn't matter.
You are absolutely right, Mary, because I've forgotten, and then it ends up being not the 50, it's 65 or something to that effect. But
83, it was 83. I had to pay mine late. I didn't pay for 2 years because they didn't send. It was 83 and they even put a lien on my account.
wow,
So
83.
whether you get a letter or not, you just need to go and pay it.
Oh, I need help because I don't even know what y'all are talking about. What the hey? What the hey?
Here it is. Can you all see that? I know it may be backwards, but it's the Department of Revenue Privilege License Renewal. This is mine.
Department of Revenue. Okay.
So my envelope postage was May the 27th. So that's when they came out.
Yes, there it is right there. Thank you, Ethiel. Can you all see that? May 7.
So how do we pay that then? We go to the Department of Revenue.com
Yes.
and do what? Our social?
Let's see here.
I kind of feel like I'm gonna have a back pay because I don't even know what the heck y'all are talking about.
Yeah, it's under your taxpayer ID.
It is your social. Here it is. NCD. Let me type it in the chat.
Okay. Look, Sarah, Jonathan, you know that's me.
I don't think you can pay this one online. I don't think I could find a way to.
It says, I'm going to read it here. It actually says, it talks about the penalties and interest, Hila, talks about that. And it says, receiving your license, you should receive your license after the department receives your return and tax payment. However, you may use your canceled check or money order stub as proof of payment until your license is received. So they say they're going to send you one. You cannot, looks like you cannot pay online. You have to send it.
How do you know what to send?
It's $50. $50 every year.
Just $50.
Not if you never paid it though.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, what in the world?
Judy, I'm glad you brought this up because it appears that we're going to have to make an announcement about this as well. We're going to have to remind everybody.
Well, I understand, Katie, because I don't know how I found out about it, but I was also like a couple of years before I knew about it because people don't talk about it.
You're right. You're absolutely
So what the heck is this even for? Don't we pay enough crap through the MLS?
It's your privilege to have a business.
Exactly.
It's a privilege license.
Yes.
From the state, from the North Carolina Department of Revenue.
Yes.
So that you can make or receive money for working.
Yes.
So, okay. So then is this only if you have like an LLC or something, like if you don't have an LLC, you don't have that, right?
No.
If you're a real estate agent and you are doing business, you have to have a privilege license. Now, see what happened when you came here. Most times we did it for you. It's part of your paperwork and onboarding costs is the privilege license fee. However, we don't keep, as a firm, we don't keep up with it for agents. But yeah, it seems like we're going to have to make that known as well.
I started in
renewals.
April. The year I started was April. And so I went ahead and paid it, but then I had to turn around and pay it again, you know.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Thanks, Sean. He put the phone number out there for you to call.
Oh,
as
thank
well.
you. 877.
Very good. Yes. So Judy, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. All right. So pay all your monies so we can do business legally. All right. Okay, I'm adding that to my list. And really good discussion because we only have about 10 more minutes left, but I wanted to just announce a couple of things that I learned from our growth call with KWRI this week, which is Keller Williams Realty International. On the growth call, they talked about we have actually expanded, or KW has expanded into more countries now. So we are 175,000 agents strong across US and Canada, and 200,000+ agents strong across the globe globally. So KW is the largest real estate firm and in more countries. They've just, I was just looking at this thing, we're in countries I can't even pronounce, places I can't even pronounce. So they're expanding. So KW, you can probably want to move anywhere and find a referral agent there in that country. So KW is growing. And with that, I also wanted to say that your co-founder and CEO is ranked the #1 real estate executive in the SP 200, which is the real estate almanac that is recognized nationally and globally. He is actually #1. Now, that may not be surprising, but I also looked at the other rankings. So Gary Keller is the #1 real estate executive in the country, and EXP is #2. I guess that's what I just really wanted to say, that KW's #1, EXP is #2. Maybe I just got excited about that, about being #1 and EXP #2. Zillow is #6. Open Door, #7 executive. Redfin #8, Remax #9, Coldwell Banker #12. So you're part of a company that has the #1 executive nationally. That may be something to be proud of. So that was my other announcement. There it is. All right, we have 7 minutes left. What else? What else? Tiffany, you want to?
Yeah, I've got something. I was going to say, depending on if we have questions or not, I always do a policy and procedure review. So I've got the next one that we're going to review. Okay. If we don't have any questions. Sarah, I did see your hand.
I saw Sarah's hand.
Yeah.
I've always got a question. So I have a weird plat issue, and I was hoping that someone could give me some advice. So I've got a new listing, and I found that the plat that is addressed in the deed is inaccurate. It's a plat for a different property that's actually 15 minutes away. And this property was just sold last year, so it's not that old, but it's pointing to the wrong deed. And furthermore, they've got an Exhibit A from the surveyor on the property last year that also points to the incorrect deed, and they've identified the incorrect lot numbers. And although I found the correct plat and have put that on my listing, of course, I'm not sure if there's any action that I need to take to correct these inaccuracies, or if I just let it be, or I don't know.
That's a good one, Sarah. And anytime it comes to those legal recordings and documents and things like that, an attorney definitely needs to get in there and get some things straightened out, since they are the ones who record. do the recording. So there needs to be an attorney involved to help sift through all of the documents and things of that nature. So I would definitely say get an attorney. And it could be something that if it goes on a contract, the closing attorney may be able to do. But if your seller just wanted to be clear and didn't want to have any holdups or setbacks, keeping or preventing or hindering the property closing, that may be something they want to invest in now.
Yeah, and I recommend starting with the latest closing attorney. So providing the correct plat that you have and the errors that you've discovered, go back to that closing attorney who has it on record, because they need to correct the error that they have recorded.
Do you know who that is? Do you have that information?
I've actually already drafted the email, but I just wanted to make sure I was not going down a rabbit hole that was not my hole to climb into.
Now, it is the seller's responsibility to have that free and clear title and all those things resolved. So you're doing the right things.
Yep.
And I had that happen with a property that I had, and the closing attorney that closed it, it was a copy and paste issue, and they fixed it at no charge to the current owners.
Excellent. Excellent.
Thanks, Ethiel.
All right, Tiffany.
All right.
4 minutes.
So I am going to share my screen with you all. We're just going to keep moving from where we were the last time when it comes to the policies and procedures. And we are going to talk today about dual and designated agency, what our policy and procedure is concerning that. Can everybody see the policy on the Word document on the screen? Yep. Okay. All right. So this is our policy and procedure number 17 about dual designated agency. And we already know there's always questions or a little confusion about how it works. So just a refresher here to remind you about what our policy is concerning dual designated agency. So when dual agency arises with another agent in our entire market center, remember, not just Burlington only, if any agent that's operating out of any of the offices, Hillsborough or Mebane, then the buyer if the buyer or seller has opted for dual designated agency, then the opposing agent will have to practice dual designated agency also. So it's really important, if you have a client who's looking at a property that's listed by KW Central, that you check to find out if that seller is already under dual or designated, and then understand that your buyer needs to operate also in the same capacity. Okay. The agency agreement will have to be amended and initialed by your client. This is only possible if no personal or confidential information of your client has been disclosed to the other agent. All right. Now, if personal and confidential information has been shared that will directly affect the negotiations, then dual designated agency cannot be practiced between those two particular agents. Okay. And so if that is the case, there are two options, and those two options are: number one, have both clients agree in writing to amend their agency to dual only. And if they go with dual, there will be no negotiation, advocacy, or sharing of confidential information permitted during that negotiation process. They're going to go back, take a step back into just pure dual agency. Okay, if they want to continue working with their agents. So that's the first option. The second option is agents must notify the team leader and the BIC, and a new agent who's not received personal and confidential information about the other side will be assigned. The original agent will receive a referral commission according to the work that they perform to that point. And then the clients must be notified of the designation of the new agent to continue that transaction on towards the closing. So if the clients would prefer, instead of working with the agents they're already with, if they really want that negotiation and that advocacy and such, then they would have to have a new agent assigned to take over the designated portion. And then the original agent will receive a referral commission, and the new agent will take over the remainder of that transaction. So those are the two options if dual agency is not an option, and if the client does prefer a designated agent working on their behalf. Okay. Now, one last thing here, an agent in dual designated agency with a seller who is presented with the opportunity to represent the buyer must refer that buyer to another agent or have the BIC to designate an agent. Okay, so you can't be a dual designated agent for buyer and seller. You can only be designated for one side. So if you are a designated agent for the seller, you have to refer that buyer to another agent or have the BIC to designate an agent for the buyer. All right, so I wanted to go over that policy. It's always good to refresh that, especially when we're talking about dual and designated agency and what you should do and how you should handle if it arises in your transaction.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Tiffany, for taking us through our policy and procedures. It's important. I know we're coming to that time of year where there are form changes, and we'll be on those. Form changes are coming. I got an email the other day saying, get ready for July 1 form changes. So
they're coming.
Yes, they are. And we'll see what they are. We'll get on it, and we will update you when we have researched and taken a look and reviewed. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for getting on today. We are certainly glad you asked. We will see you in 2 weeks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. And it's a holiday Monday. Office is closed. Forgot about that. Federal holiday Monday. Office is closed. All right. See you guys. Enjoy.
Bye, everybody. See you next time.
Bye.